President Joe Biden is back in the country after a very short visit to Israel. The trip was cut short after a bomb hit a hospital in Gaza. You've all heard about that. And meetings with Jordan and the Palestinians were canceled as a result. What actually happened at the hospital continues to be an ongoing and emotional argument, but the president made it clear he believes, and the United States asserts, that it was a terrorist missile fired inside of Gaza that malfunctioned and roared back to earth. The number of people killed is also a source of much debate. Originally, we were told more than 500 people were killed. Some claimed the death toll was more than 1,000. But now that's not certain either. In fact, many reports now claim the main hospital was not hit, but the parking lot was, meaning it's almost impossible that that many people could have been killed. The fog of war is thick, especially when filtered through the sewer of social media. And for us, these are dangerous days indeed. President Biden is always risky on the world stage, as I will explain more in a minute, but he did take about 3 or 4 questions on board Air Force One Wednesday on his way back, a rarity to say the least. And he said Israel did not bomb the hospital in Gaza. Here's what he said.
How about the hospital, sir? People all over the region are upset about the hospital and don't necessarily believe you or the Israelis that they didn't have anything to do with it. Do you have a message to the people in the streets right now?
Well, I can understand why in this circumstance they wouldn't believe. I can understand that. But I would not, you notice I don't say things like that unless I have faith in the source from which I've gotten them. Our Defense Department says it's highly unlikely that it was Israelis, but if a different footprint, and they've intercepted some anyway. So that's why, if you notice, I didn't say it first. I wanted to make sure that I knew. And look, and I'm not suggesting that Hamas deliberately did it either. It's that old thing, got to learn how to shoot straight.
Wow, Hamas just has to learn how to shoot straight. Huh. Wise and commanding words from the president of the United States while backing Israel, which made the comments more strange than anything, really. But when asked if he believes Israel is fighting this war within accepted boundaries of conflict, Biden quickly ended the questions and walked out of the room. But it's more than he usually answers. In fact, it was borderline miraculous that he answered anything at all, no matter how much mumbling and meandering he did while talking. Earlier in the day, he was having a lot more trouble navigating a conversation where he had to rely on his note cards because there was a prompter not available. That didn't go very well. Watch this.
You know, years ago, I asked the Secretary of State when he and I were working in the Senate to write something for him, and he said, he wrote a line that I think is appropriate. He said, it's not, we lead, not just, well, I won't go into it. I'll wait later. Taking too much time.
Now, you're wasting our time like usual. Grandpa got lost, forgot where he was, doesn't know who Secretary of State is or who the senator was that he was referring to either. It's a bunch of gibberish from a guy who's long since been lost, untethered. Watching that, is it any wonder our enemies feel emboldened? The president of the United States is just not all there. And even if he was, he's weak. You see, he seems afraid to offend Iran. It looks like he's still trying to kiss up to the Palestinian leadership even after those terrorist attacks. But the focus for most of the day yesterday did revolve around what really happened to the hospital in Gaza, a Christian hospital, we're told. And emotions are running high on all sides, that's for sure. And the outspoken anti-Semites on Capitol Hill, well, they did not hold back in the verbal attacks on the Jewish state. And to be honest, it's not like they care too much about the truth anyway. They have a political agenda. They're pushing it hard. And they seem to be honest about that part. It seems to be true all the way from Kyiv to Tel Aviv these days. There's a political agenda being pushed on you, me, and everybody else. The truth doesn't matter. Too far, too many people in politics and the media. And when some politicians lie, the media just cranks up the volume. People like Rashida Tlaib, who is an anti-Semite out in the open most of the time and a fraud the rest of the time, and she's among the most visible, screaming at Joe Biden with palpable anger. Listen to this.
Continue to watch people think it's okay to bomb a hospital where children. You know what's so hard sometimes is watching those videos and the people telling the kids don't cry. And like, let them cry. And they're shaking, and somebody, you know this, they keep telling them not to cry in Arabic. They can cry, I can cry, we all can cry. If we're not crying, something is wrong. And so I'm telling you right now, President Biden, not all of America's with you on this one. And you need to wake up and understand that. We are literally watching people commit genocide and killing a vast majority just like this. And we still stand by and say nothing. We will remember this. But all of you, you need to know, I swear to God, Wahyat Allah, you are on the right side of history. You are. You're doing everything possible to save lives. What is wrong with that? Stop it with trying to politicize this.
What has happened to America when you watch that? One-sided. Israel was attacked by terrorists. Israel retaliated. The hospital was not bombed by Israel. It was blown up by the terrorists themselves with a defective missile. And yet we have to deal with that. What has happened to America? How are there so many pro-Hamas, pro-terrorist people in this country? How are we electing pro-terrorist politicians to go to the nation's capital? Well, frankly, it's because our immigration system is broken. It dates to 1965, but that's a conversation for another day. Now, this is not all Democrats who think this way. As Tlaib made clear, by the way, her stance puts her on opposite sides with her president and her Democrat Party, many of whom are frequently appalled by her behavior and her hateful comments about Jews, the anti-Semitic tropes often repeated by her fellow squad members like Ilhan Omar, who's trying to reel one back in now, and AOC, who's usually on the bandwagon as well. And this is creating a rift for Democrats who usually carry the Jewish vote almost completely, but this kind of divide could change that in the future. How could it not?